Blackbird Writers presents author interviews. I am Tracy S. Phillips, and today I am talking with Sherrill Joseph, who is a best-selling, multiple award-winning children's author of middle grade books. Sherrill has learned about kids reading and writing during her 35 years of teaching in public schools. She has peopled her themed middle grade series with characters modeled after her own polite, responsible role model students of various abilities, disabilities, races, and cultures. She wants to inspire kids to appreciate diversity and to realize their full potential. In each book, she also presents mysteries with a twist of obscure history. She hopes that young readers will learn the value of historical pioneers whose work then makes life better and richer for us now. She is a recipient of the 2024 Edgar Allan Poe Saturday Visitor Award, 2 Gold Awards from Mom's Choice Book Awards, 2 Gold Awards from the Moonbeam Children's Book Awards, 3 awards from the Story Monsters Approved Awards, and numerous other children's book awards. Welcome, Sherrill Joseph.
Wow, thank you. That was quite an introduction. Are you sure you're really talking to me? That really me? Did I do all that?
Well, it's
Amazing.
amazing. And your books are amazing. Your
Thank you.
Botanic Hill mysteries are absolutely so much fun. I love reading them.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I enjoy writing them too, very much. Yeah. So I'm really happy to be here for this opportunity.
Yeah, and I see them all lined up behind you.
They are. Well, the sixth, number 7 is not there yet
Six.
because it's coming out on October 14th.
Yeah,
But
and
yes, they're all 6, 1 through 6, right back here behind me.
yep, and
And
then we are.
Nancy Drew is right here, by the way.
Oh,
These yellow books are,
you see it.
yeah, my Nancy Drew from childhood, my
Yeah.
inspiration, my writing inspiration.
But today we're here discussing book 7, which is Macadamia Street, The Hidden Skeleton. And I wear my skeleton earrings to
Thank you.
cheer you on.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Presenting your book.
Yes, thanks.
So book 7, let's talk about the whole series first. Because these books are about the adventures of your 4 detectives, the twins, Lanny and Lexi, and Moki, who is the son of a police detective, and Ronnie, who is a girl who she's both Hindi and someone who has a lexical gustatory synesthesia. I had to look that one up.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you introduce your characters to our listeners?
All right. Well, I have 4 detectives, and they're all 13 years old. They're 2 girls, 2 boys, and they're forever 13. They're going to be forever 13, like Nancy Drew was forever 18. So they're going to be forever 13 years old. They're very smart, tech savvy. As you said, they're respectful, and they're trustworthy by design, because I do want them to be positive role models for my young readers. And so my books are sort of like a mashup between Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, because there's 2 girl and 2 boy detectives. Lanny Wyatt is the brains behind the Botanic Hill Detectives. He lives in fictitious Las Palmitas, California, which is roughly fashioned after where I live here in San Diego, California, in Southern California. He loves movies from the golden age of Hollywood, and he was inspired by his hero, Sherlock Holmes. He loves Sherlock Holmes' deductive reasoning, so he tries to apply that to the cases. His twin sister is Lexi Wyatt, and she, unlike her twin brother, she can cry with very little provocation. She's very emotional. She loves poetry. She loves song lyrics. She was very instrumental in helping them solve Jacaranda Street gravestone image, the one that's about Edgar Allan Poe, because she knows Poe inside and out. So that came in really handy. She brings a lot of positivity to the team. Next character is Moki Kalani, and he is from Hawaii. And as you mentioned, his father is a police officer. So Moki is the one they go to for anything about crime scenes, because Moki knows all that kind of thing. He's the comedian of the group. Got to be one in a group. He's a comedian and he's perfect foil for his best friend Lanny, who's very serious. And Moki's always trying to get him to laugh. He also is a foodie and he loves to
Yes.
cook. Loves to cook. He's a lot of fun. He's always the favorite detective when I go do school author visits. I always have the kids raise their hand, and at least 50% of the class, Moki's the favorite. And last but not least, we have Rani Kumar, and she's from India, and she keeps the team on track. She's very athletic, and she also has synesthesia, as do I. We both have that same type. And synesthesia is where you're born with extra connections in your brain between senses that don't often have connections. So, for example, when Ronnie or I hear a name or a word, we often taste or smell something. And that stays pretty consistent. So, and Moki's convinced that Ronnie can use her synesthesia to solve cases, but she keeps saying, nah. But one of these days, I'm gonna see if I can somehow make that happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering now, do each of the books like sort of star one of the characters as the sort of main detective? Like you just said, Lexi helped out in the Edgar Allan Poe book.
Sometimes that happens. I know each one, I give each character a chance to start the book. For example, Lexi started book one and book five. And Lanny started book 2 and 6, and kind of like that. They each get their turn starting the book. So there's like Lexi, Lanny, Moki, and Ronnie. Each started the book in that order. And then I'm just going to repeat that as it keeps going through the series. But yeah, I mean, just that kind of naturally, I notice, oh, there's a lot of poetry here, like in that one. Okay, Lexi's going to star. She's going to be like the star in that one. Lanny loves Hollywood movies, so in book 6, that comes out because of the theme of book 6. That comes out for him. So, but they all love each other. They're friends. They trust each other. They get in their little spats sometimes, but there's nothing major. Like I said, Ronnie's the one who always gets them back on track. She doesn't put up with any of that stuff. She gets them going. Yeah.
Yeah, they are a great team, and they're
Thank
also a
you.
bunch of really smart 13-year-olds.
They are
Um,
very mature. But like I said, they're fashioned after, believe it or not, I had 10 and 11-year-olds who were this smart. When I was my last year of teaching in 2013, I was teaching 5th grade, 4th and 5th grade, and I had kids that they were just crazy smart. It was amazing and polite and respectful of one another. And I was watching them one day after school and they were hanging out in my classroom. I said, you know what? When I retire and I start writing my books, I'm modeling them after these kids. And I get flack for that by some reviewers because they say, I don't know any kids like that. I go, well, and I wish I could respond back and say, because I would say, I'm really sorry you don't, because kids,
right.
there are some wonderful kids out in this world, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. And I feel
that's
like
for
they're
my,
getting
that's for the,
smarter too. I mean, it feels like each generation, kids are
yes,
brighter,
yes,
smarter, quicker.
yes, they
Um,
are. I
yeah,
agree with that. I agree with
yeah,
that. And like I said, I taught all grades, K to 12. I taught in every socioeconomic level and neighborhood and every culture, race. Kids are just, kids are amazing. They just are. So I
yeah.
write for them. That's why I write for them.
So each book is about an obscure mystery
Hmm.
with a twist of history.
Uh-huh. Exactly. That's
Yeah, just can
how I
you
market it.
briefly share what each book, what each theme is?
Okay, well, they're all standalone mysteries, so you can read them in any order. They're all current day, but they hark to a time in the past. So they always, basically, every one of the books, the kids are hired to find something or someone. And usually it ends up being both as the case goes on. They always work as a team to generate ideas. And they also believe, because their parents pounded into them, safety in numbers. You never go it alone. You always do things in pairs, or the four of you stick together kind of thing. So Nutmeg Street Egyptian Secrets is about the kids are hired to restore the reputation of a deceased Egyptologist who was wrongfully accused of stealing an ancient Egyptian urn. In book two, there's a little history about silent movies. That's where Lanny shines in that book. They're hired to come to this spooky mansion where these silent movie stars used to live, to find an enormous multi-million-dollar emerald called the Green Curse. In book three, Walnut Street Phantom Rider, they go out to the backcountry and they solve a ranch mystery. Someone or something has been stealing ranch supplies, but there's a lot more that awaits the kids in the mountains and out in the desert in a ghost town. And that's all I'll tell you about that. But oh, one other thing I do want to tell you, it is a mystery wrapped around the famous lawman Bass Reeves, African-American lawman Bass Reeves.
Oh, right.
Uh,
I remember that one.
yeah, and book four, right here, Saffron Street Island Danger. The kids go to Oahu, where and Moki's kind of stars in this one because that's where he was born. That's where he lived for the first 8 years of his life before his mother passed away, and his dad brought him to California for a change. They're there to find a black pearl necklace that's wrapped up in that went missing on the day of the Pearl Harbor bombing. So there's a lot in the book about Pearl Harbor, a lot of history about the Japanese internment camps, that kind of thing. Book five is the one that won the Edgar Allan Poe Award last year, Jacaranda Street Gravestone Image. They unravel a lot of secrets about Edgar Allan Poe in this story.
Mhm.
And
I
they
love that one.
discover a gift to the world in this story. And finally, book six, Yupa Street Shocking Spectre. The detectives travel just about 100 miles east of Los Angeles into this fictitious Welsh village that I created called Landfair. And it's supposedly where the 1931 Universal horror classic Frankenstein was filmed. It really wasn't. It was really filmed in Hollywood, in Universal Studios. But I set it there, and there's I crafted a mystery around that. So there's a whole lot of information about Boris Karloff, about Hollywood, about black and white movies versus color movies. So Lanny really shines forth in that movie quite a bit. So there you
Yeah.
are.
And next, coming up in
Next,
October, is the
yeah.
Macadamia Street Hidden Skeleton. And
Mm-hmm.
it really is about a hidden skeleton. And some of my most favorite historical bad guys, pirates.
Yes, yes, mine too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So they go to Penzance in Cornwall because the twins' grandparents live there.
Hmm.
And my ancestors on my dad's side were from Cornwall. So
Oh,
I've been to Cornwall and I know Cornwall somewhat. And one of my favorite mystery authors is Daphne du Maurier, who lived in Cornwall as well. So part of my research for the book was to read her biography. And that's where I got the idea for the hidden skeleton, because when she was living in Cornwall there, not in Penzance, but east of there, she was renting a manor house, and she was in charge of doing the renovation of the house, the restoration work. And when they were tearing out a wall, they found a skeleton in
oh,
the wall. And so
wow.
there's my idea right there for the book, So anyway, that's what that's about. And so a little bit about the storyline. Mr. and Mrs. Lamb are now they live next door to the grandparents in Penzance, but the Lambs live in Crow's Nest Grange, which they inherited from the last Earl of Stowsbury, who died without heir. And so Mr. Lamb was his attorney, so he willed the property to the Lambs. So while they were starting to restore, they found what they think are the remnants of Captain One-Eye Jack's logbook from early 1700s in their house, because the house was built in the early 1700s. So Mr. Lamb comes to America. The grandparents say, hey, go to California, get my grandkids over here, let them solve this mystery. And so that's what happens. He goes, he tells them, the kids come to Cornwall. They stay with the grandparents, but they're always over at Crow's Nest Grange to solve the mystery. So that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
So there,
So you've added a lot of pirate lore
yes, I have,
to this book.
because of the One-Eyed Jack, who, by the way, is
Right.
fictitious. He's fictitious.
Oh,
Yeah, he's fictitious. But so pirates, so yes, how did pirates come to be associated with the house, you might wonder? Well, there's a lot of duplicity that goes on, that's gone on for 300 years, and what the detectives are going to find out just might rock British nobility. Like set it on their heads at this point because of
so is
what's happening in the
any
story.
so is any of the stuff, I wonder, because I know that you have a lot of truth in many of your other
Mm-hmm.
books.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of truths about pirates can we expect to look for in book 7?
Well, I talk about a lot of the pirates because there's a wonderful character in the book called Salty Joe. He's a crusty old guy he's a pirate expert, and he lives there in Penzance, and he hangs out on the quay there and whittles. He's like kind of a typical, kind of salty sailor kind of guy. And he's the go-to guy for pirate information. So the detectives are always talking to him. So he's sharing all kinds of real pirate information with them about like the Jolly Roger, where that idea came from. And he tells them it came from the French words Joli Rouge, which means pretty red, because when the Jolly Roger first started, and it was actually begun by Blackbird, sorry, that's us. Blackbeard, um, I think it was Black Bart who actually started that. And when the Jolly Roger first started, it was red, but now it's become black, and mostly black and white. But some of them still have red on them, like blood things like that on them.
Right. Because like you were saying in the books, the pirates wanted to, they didn't identify themselves like with the skull and crossbones just all the time, but as
Right.
they approached a ship, they would raise their
They would
flag
raise
and
it.
wah.
Yeah, yeah. And each pirate captain got to fashion his own Jolly Roger. And that was like a sign saying, oh, that's black, here comes Black Bart, or here comes Blackbeard, or here comes whoever, here comes that, we know that that's the price. So they would wait and they would hoist it up the mast at that point so that they could do a surprise attack. Yeah,
Right.
so that was really kind of cool too. And of course, the intention was to intimidate. Um,
Well, yeah.
and some of the Jolly Rogers, by what they had on them, the designs on them meant we don't take prisoners. If we board your ship, you're dead. Others
Well,
meant we take prisoners, and we take your ship, and we take all the treasure you've amassed so far. I mean, there were
right.
interesting little messages in that. And Salty Joe just unloads all this real historical information about pirates. Just about anything you can imagine about pirates with the kids.
Yeah,
And
he's a treasure trove and a
yeah, he is.
treasure.
He is. Yes, he is. Yeah. Yeah. He puts them on course literally on course a lot of times in this mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on several occasions, you mentioned the
Mhm.
pirate code.
Yes.
What can you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
That was fascinating. That was fun, so much fun to research. And I actually list the pirate code that was written by Black Bart in 1720. That was the last 10 years, by the way, of the golden age of piracy. So a lot of the pirates, starting with Black Bart in 1720, used his code, and each captain was allowed to alter the code a bit, but for the most part, it stayed the same. And the reason for that was because it was a set of rules on how to act on sea and in port for not only the crew members, but the captain and the officers as well. They all had to follow the code. They all had to sign the code. And it was originally crafted to be, it was 11 points of how to act on the ship. And like I can go into detail about it because it's in the book. So the code consisted of 11 articles of agreement. It was a code of conduct for pirates, and the captain and the officers and the crew members all had to sign the code if they were going to ship out with the ship, and they all had to agree to it, and they all and abide by it. And this is for on sea and in ports. And the rules could change ship to ship based on the captain. For the most part, it stayed the same because that allowed, like if a crew member changed, they still knew what the rules were. They didn't have to relearn rules. There
Some
were
of those
punishments.
rules were pretty dark too.
Yeah, there were punishments.
Mhm.
And the captain didn't get off. The captain had to follow him too. The captain wanted to be liked by the crew members because if the crew didn't like the captain, they could maroon him and
Yeah,
take the ship. And that happened occasionally. And the crew members wanted to like the captain, wanted to be liked by the captain because the captain was the leader. Their whole purpose of being there was to get treasure. And they
right.
were all poor and they wanted to get treasure. So they worked as a team. It was a very democratic system on the ship. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. It also
Yeah.
was about how to divide up treasure. There were rules for how to divide up treasure. And there was actually an officer on board who was in charge of that. So it wasn't like they went and just grabbed the stuff. There were rules for how to do that. It was really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Would you
So
like
it
me to
was like a
share some?
democracy.
It was a democracy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to share some Mythbusters that I learned about
Yes,
pirate? Okay.
please.
I think I mentioned that pirate captains were obeyed, but they were considered equals to the crew, which I thought was fascinating. Um, Number two, pirates did not bury their treasure because they needed cash. They needed food. They needed medicine. They needed to buy hooks for their hands or peg legs if they got injured. When they got off the ship, they made a beeline for food and medicine was what they did. So they didn't have time to bury treasure. They needed it. They usually came home with very little treasure as a result of that. Number three, a lot of pirates wear the gold earring. There's my gold earring. They wore
Yeah.
the gold earring. Okay. And it wasn't just for decoration, okay? It was their burial money.
Oh,
If they died at sea, their earring was removed and they cashed it in and they used it to bury the pirate. For all
wow.
any expense that was needed to notify family or to anything expenses that they needed to use, like if they were going to bury him on land, like wood for a coffin or whatever. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't know that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, they didn't have pirates. They didn't have parrots on their shoulders. They didn't walk around with parrots on their shoulders. They just didn't do
Well,
that.
that seems like a Disneyism,
Yes, yeah, it is.
to
And it's
use my
also
made-up word.
a Treasure Island thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a Treasure Island thing. Yeah. Um, they didn't walk the plank. They never walked the plank. They preferred keel hauling, where they tied a
Oh,
rope on somebody and dragged them under the ship over and over again till he was probably dead and pretty
yeah.
beaten up from the keel, the bottom of the ship, all that. And then number six, they never wore boots. Can you guess why?
Too hot
Yeah,
or
and try to walk in boots on a ship that's rocking.
yeah, it's
Try
slippery.
to walk in water or in sand with boots on.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
they wore the same kind of leather shoes with the little buckles on them, like you see in like the Pilgrims, that kind of that were popular back in that century. That's what they wore.
Oh,
Yeah,
I guess boots just make him look tougher.
I guess so. Yeah, like here I come, right? Yeah,
Oh, that's really interesting, though.
yeah.
Um, so your young detectives also get a lot of help from adults,
Mm-hmm.
and rightly so, because you don't really want 13-year-olds messing with a crime
Mm-mm.
scene or
Right,
discovering um, skeletons. I don't think I'm
right.
giving anything away by
No.
mentioning that they actually do find a hidden skeleton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They do.
So
However, they have
how
help. Go
how
ahead.
do the adults help them? Yeah.
Okay. Well, they get this clue, and I'm not going to say from who or what. They get a clue that there's something buried, and they run from the crow's nest down all these flights in this manor home, Crow's Nest Grange, to the basement on the heels of this help that they're getting. And the adults are right, Mr. and Mrs. Lamb are right behind them. So
Mhm.
when they enter the cellar, basement, the cellar, they're not alone. They're not alone. And the four of them are together. And Ronnie and Lexi are always together because Ronnie knows how fragile, how vulnerable Lexi is because she's so emotional. And Ronnie's like nerves of steel. So she's always there to help Lexi. And Moki will just like be a chicken. He'll turn around and like he like walk away. And Lanny will go around, oh, hey, that's really cool. Look at that. So they're all their personalities kind of help me know like how much support do I need to give them. But yeah, I give them a lot of adult support because no, you don't put kids in scary situations without having a way for them to get out or having immediate support around them. And
Right.
that's why I try to do it that way. So yeah, if a situation is dicey, adults are right there with them, and they're also taught by their parents. Each of the detectives' parents teach them you don't take risks. You let us know. We trust you, so we let you take some chances. But if you don't tell us what you're doing, you go off on your own, you pay the price, we won't let you solve mysteries anymore. So that's the message I try to give my readers, my kids, like tell the truth, be trustworthy, be respectful, and then you will be respected and you will be given privileges that you might not be able to get otherwise.
So let's see. I know that you have managed to do tons of marketing with these books, with the middle grade books. And as we all know, most of the kids reading at this age level are probably not the ones who are shopping for books.
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to, I'll ask you after you answer this question, but
Okay.
can you share a bit about your massive and really cool newsletter for all
Oh.
ages?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I get dings for being too massive sometimes, but yeah, I try to put a little something in there for everybody because I'm marketing it toward teachers, librarians, kids, of course. Um, and I do have some kids who read my newsletter because their parents subscribe to it. Of course, the parents, families, grandparents, whoever, teachers, definitely. And so I try to put something in there for everybody. Like in August, the message was about going back to school. So
Mhm.
that hits a lot of the audience right there. Um, I have a giveaway. I always do a book and some book swag and a gift certificate. I have a mystery of the month for the kids, like a little riddle, funny little thing. I have an
Yeah,
adult reading corner and a kids reading corner where I recommend books. Moki
yeah.
has, Moki always features recipes. He always finds things on what he calls cool foodie sites. for something that's for holidays. He features like a site where they have tons of recipes that kids can make or they can make with adults. So that's what I have in there. I have, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Well,
awesome.
thank
And
you.
because there's so many different things in there for all ages.
Uh-huh.
And so I highly recommend that if you have kids, sign up for Cheryl's newsletter
Oh,
and
thank
share
you.
it with your school age kids. Um,
Yeah,
and you also do a lot of like classroom readings and school visits.
I do.
What was
I,
there ever
yeah.
like a really great question from one of the kids?
I get a lot of questions from them, amazing questions. I try to list them on my website. I have a thing, frequently asked, a FAQ, frequently asked question page. You can go in there and look at them. But my favorite question I got just last year was from a third grader. And he said, you know, he said, I've noticed from your books that the detectives' backs are always to the audience. There they are. Sometimes it's a three-quarter, kind of three-quarter profile or something, but a lot of times their backs are to the audience. And he said, are we ever going to see their faces? And my answer to him was no, because I want you to use your imagination and the words that I use to describe them, to come up with what you think they look like. Like, for example, Moki tells them the kids in almost every book that he thinks he's the Hawaiian version of Captain Jack Sparrow. So Lanny teases him like, well, you don't even have a mustache yet, let alone, the goatee thing. Like you think you're Johnny Depp, you're like, forget it. You're like, no way, guy, or something like that. So they tease each other. But yeah, so I want the kids to imagine what they look like face on, not what I tell them they look like. But the
Yeah,
other reason I told them the other reason I do that is because it invites the eye in to the
right.
story, the picture, which is where I put something significant about the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your covers. I think they're
Thank
great. They're
you.
really well done.
Thank you. One
Do
of the
you
one-
do you design them?
I have a pretty good idea of what I want. And then I've had the same cover designer for all my books, including number 7 that's coming out. So they have a sense of what I want. So the characters look pretty much the same from the back most of the time, depending on the lighting that's there. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
yeah, thank you.
Um, did being an author is really hard work.
Mm,
And I can't even imagine how much harder it is writing for children, knowing that you can't market directly to
yeah.
them.
Hmm.
But have you ever had a moment of doubt about your writing career? Or was there ever like a really difficult time for you?
Um, Actually, not really because, well, maybe the hardest thing was when I tried to get traditionally published, but it didn't work. I had some nibbles, but it didn't work. And so I just said, forget it. I'm going to indie publish. I'm not going to wait. I think I'm happier for doing that. I'm
Yeah,
happy anyway. But the real answer to that question is that I'm doing this. This is my passion. I worked for 35 years as a teacher, and when I retired, my dream came true. I started writing kids' mystery novels, which I wanted to write since 4th grade when I discovered Nancy Drew. I told myself when I was like 9 years old, I want to write kids' mysteries someday. So now I'm living my dream. So if it becomes work, I find myself backing off and like going out to lunch with a friend because I don't want this to become a chore. So
right.
I probably don't do as much marketing as the average writer might do because first and foremost, I'm doing this for me. It's a creative outlet. Secondly, I'm doing it for my grandkids. Third, I'm doing it for the rest of the kids in the world.
Yeah,
And if people like my books, they do. If they don't, they don't. Maybe my great grandkids will someday. Who knows? But so yeah, that's my answer to that. I don't get too flustered by it.
yeah.
Yeah, I just
That's a
don't. I
great
just
attitude.
I try. Yeah. And
It's
if
a
I,
great
and
one.
if I feel like I'm getting stressed, like I said, I'll take the day off and go out to lunch, or I'll go take a big walk, you know, get my head in a different place for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love hanging out with my detectives.
Well,
Yeah, they're
how do you
fun.
decide on the next theme for your
Oh,
detectives?
that's another thing I try not to stress too much about. Like about halfway through a book, I start thinking, I wonder what the next one's going to be. I thought, no, no, don't go there yet. But by the end of the book, writing the end of the book, I usually give a little preview of the coming attraction. So I
Mhm.
usually have to have make a decision. So I start just having my ears and eyes open. I look around me, and and an idea comes up. This book 7 coming out probably mainly came from the fact that it occurred to me that my last 5 books, the kids have been traveling. They've been solving mysteries on the go in other places. I want to go back to them solving a mystery in the neighborhood. Well,
Oh,
they live in Southern California. But historically, California used to be part of Mexico. It was called Alta California.
right.
And it didn't become California until 1850 when it became a state. And up until that time, it was Alta California. It was owned by Mexico, like I said. So I decided to craft a mystery around the Californios, who were the Spanish-speaking residents of California when it was called Alta California during the Spanish and Mexican era, which was roughly from 1769 to 1848.
Oh,
And then, of course, 1849, gold was discovered, and then it became a state in 1850. So I'm going to craft a mystery. So it's going to be like a real Spanish influence, Spanish and Mexican influence in book 8 coming up.
that sounds fascinating too.
And I'm not
Um,
dead sure of the mystery quite yet. I'm still working on that. It's going to be called, it's Bougainvillea Street will be the next one. But what comes after the colon, I'm not quite sure yet. I have something down, but it might change before book 7 gets published.
well, you have to
Yeah.
write this book then before you, I don't know.
Yeah.
I always have to write it or while I'm writing it, then I can come up with a name,
Oh,
but
no,
not
I
before.
get my ideas from something historical. And then I
Okay.
just start, I just start blending fact with fiction at that point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, where can our readers find your books?
SherrillJoseph.com. And there's a tab that says books, or you can just go to SherrillJoseph.com/books. You can go to SherrillJoseph.com/school visits. There's a tab on my website for that too, if you're interested. And I do free visits. As a teacher, I never had money to buy an author, pay for an author to come to my classroom. And so I decided that if, I'm going to do this for free. And I love being back around kids. So it's a win-win, hopefully a win-win-win. And so, yeah, I do virtual and in person, mostly in person, or mostly, of course, here in my neighborhood, in my city, San Diego. But I've done virtual author visits. All over the United States. So, in fact, I have one coming up in November, and I have another one coming up next month.
Sweet.
So an in-person one here in San Diego next month. So, yeah. And I'm on
Wonderful.
social media, and I'm a Blackbird writer. And you can go to blackbirdwriters.com, and you can find me with all the other 24 Blackbird writers there. I'm on social media. I'm on Substack. And in the back of my books, I have a list of where you can connect with me. So all that information is in the back of my books.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
today for joining me, Cheryl. This is a really great
Thank you.
conversation, and I highly recommend your books.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Wow. I can't thank you enough, and thank you all for listening.
Yeah. Bye for now.